Luna posed in front of the mirror, gazing at the way her skirt moved as she spun around. Her father Owen sat in an armchair watching her delightedly, and Mrs. Olson, who was by the fireplace, couldn't help but shed a few tears of joy. "Daddy," she asked sweetly, "how do I look?" "Darling, you are a sight to behold. You will be the talk of the town with your stunning looks and great intellect. No other girl in school will be able to match your radiance." Owen found it amusing. "Mrs. Olson, you always say the best of everything. Can't you just take a look at her?" Mr. Miller suggested. Mrs. Olson answered firmly, "I guess I have no choice but to agree with you this time." Owen gazed upon his daughter with pride, recalling the day she first arrived in his life. She looked absolutely perfect. He was filled with appreciation for the hard-headed attitude he had taken, which in turn enabled him to raise Luna. Owen was a highly motivated person with an intense passion for banking. He strived to push himself beyond the limits and never settled for mediocrity in his career. His exceptional dedication and commitment to reach his goals were unparalleled. He was always looking for ways to improve himself and to make a positive impact in the world of finance. Owen's ambition was contagious, and he inspired others to strive for excellence in their own careers. He was known for his intelligence, drive, and unwavering commitment to his work. He was a true leader and an asset to the GKB Bank, where he's worked for almost 10 years. A few years ago, Owen, an ambitious banker, met Emma. Their relationship was nothing serious, and Emma worked as a dancer at a club where Owen would occasionally go to unwind. This club was a popular spot among entrepreneurs. During the day they would conduct business there, and in the evening they would let loose. As Owen sat at the edge of the dance floor, he couldn't help but fix his gaze on a new dancer that had just stepped onto the stage. Her name was Emma, and from the moment she began to move, Owen was captivated. She was a vision of grace and fluidity, her every step effortless and elegant. Her beauty was undeniable, but it was her dancing that truly left Owen's spell. The way she moved was nothing like he had ever seen before. Each gesture, each turn, each leap was perfectly executed and full of emotion. Owen felt as though he was watching a work of art come to life before his eyes. He was completely enraptured by Emma's performance, and he couldn't take his eyes off of her. On their first night, he attempted to invite her to his. "Sweetie, you just completely blew my mind. I want to see you dance just for me." He looked into her eyes full of desire. He was certain that she would be his as. He had always been able to have his pick of the dancers from the club. Owen would almost always leave with someone. Occasionally, when things were slow, he would go home alone. Emma, the new dancer, gave him a look that left him a little taken it. "Baby, you should just go. I'm dancing here, not selling myself." She turned around and walked away. Owen stood there with his mouth open in surprise. Nevertheless, he quickly regained his composure and shook his head in admiration. "She's either stupid or too smart. She's just trying to keep her value high, and it looks like it's the latter." But Emma disappeared and never showed up. When Owen went to look for her, he found out that she had already gone home. This had never happened to him before. He was so angry that he went home alone without trying to replace her. He caught up with her only 2 days later, but she rejected him again. Owen was smitten with Emma, and he knew that he had to make her. He was confident and determined, and he was sure that he could win over her with charm and persistence. However, what he didn't know was that Emma had a completely different perspective. She was a strong and independent woman who did not want to depend on anyone, especially not a man. Emma had built a life for herself that was self-sufficient and fulfilling, and she was not interested in giving that up for anyone. When Owen made his advances, she was polite but firm in her rejection. Despite his best efforts, Emma remained resolute in her decision to maintain her independence. Oman was taken aback by her refusal, but he quickly realized that he had underestimated the strength and resolve of this remarkable Despite Emma's initial rejections, she eventually became less strict with Owen and they started dating. However, Owen soon realized that their relationship was not what he had hoped for. Emma accepted his gifts without any show of gratitude or affection, and it was clear to Owen that she did not have the same level of feeling for him that he had for. This only served to fuel Owen's anger and frustration as he was becoming increasingly attached to Emma. Despite her lack of interest, it irritated him that he was putting so much effort into the relationship only to be met with indifference from her. This inner conflict left Owen feeling confused and angry, and he found himself trapped in a situation that he did not know how to. Their relationship was tumultuous, like a fire, a natural disaster. Emma didn't listen to him at all. They either burned with passion for each other or they fought fiercely. Owen was tired, exhausted by such a relationship. One day they were at Owen's place. They were having an argument about her lifestyle. At some point he said, "That's it. Quit your dancing. You're gonna move in with me and start behaving." "Emma Smart, move in with you as who?" "Well, as my woman." Owen understood what she meant. "Emma, please hear me out. I can't marry you. You're a bar dancer. I can't let everyone know that I'm engaged to a bar dancer." "Of course not. You wouldn't." Emma replied, "I wouldn't have accepted your offer to live with you. It's not good for someone as important as you to sleep with a bar dancer." Emma, sit and turned around, hit the road. Jack Owen jumped up. He was furious. "Do you even understand what you're saying? I can leave and you'll only regret it later, and I won't come back." Owen was deeply offended by Emma's comment, which he felt was unjust. He couldn't contain his anger and responded with physical violence, hitting Emma in the face before storming out of the apartment. Desperate to escape the thoughts of Emma, Owen headed to the bar with the intention of getting drunk and forgetting all about her. He ordered drink after drink, hoping that the alcohol would dull his senses and ease his. At first, it seemed as though his plan was working. The buzz from the alcohol made him feel carefree and relieved from the stress of his troubled relationship with Emma. However, as the night went on, Owen found that instead of forgetting about her, he was thinking about her more and more. Every glass of alcohol only seemed to bring her to the forefront of his. He was stuck in a vicious cycle of trying to forget and being reminded, and he knew that he wouldn't find any real peace until he could find a way to let go of his feelings for her. His anger led him to get into a fight, and he ended up breaking his nose as he finally stormed out into the fresh air and began to sober up a little. He realized that all of his troubles and mishaps were caused by Emma. One night after another drinking spree, Owen went to Emma's place without her permission, using his own key to enter her bedroom. It was early morning. He stood in front of her bed for a moment, admiring her body, which was visible in the light of the night lamp. Then he sat on the edge of the bed and started mumbling something. Emma woke up, but she was still half asleep. She didn't know what was going on. Owen pulled a blanket off of her and lay next. Emma didn't say much at all, which was surprising for Owen. He left in the morning, telling her that he would never let her go. After that incident, Emma disappeared and Owen couldn't find her. Despite using all his connections, he struggled and became increasingly distressed. He was willing to do anything to find her, even if it meant disregarding social norms and marrying her, but she was nowhere to be. In the following months, Owen came to realize how much of a terrible person he had been, and he deeply regretted his actions. He even considered turning himself into the police for hitting Emma. He didn't know what had happened to her, but whatever it was, he wanted her to know that he was not proud of his past behavior at all. He was willing to accept any punishment, but it seemed that something else was in store for. 7 months had passed. One night the phone rang in his apartment. "Is this Owen Jones?" He got out of the bed and answered, "Yes, it's me." "Who is this?" The clock showed 3 a.m. and he assumed something had happened, but he couldn't think of anyone in his life who could be in trouble. "We're calling from the maternity hospital. Do you know Emma Williams?" She didn't immediately understand what was going. Yes, of course, but I don't understand anything. What does maternity hospital have to do with it? Could you please come over? Emma passed away during childbirth, but before her death, she left a note that the daughter she gave birth to is also your daughter. She left a letter for you too. What, Emma? No. At that moment, Owen could not believe what he was. He thought that he was going crazy or that it was a dream. He even pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming. But when he realized that it was real, he said, "I'll be there right away." Emma wrote in her note that she loved him very much, but she couldn't tolerate his past behavior. She asked him to raise their daughter as a real princess. Owen had not cried in many years, but when he saw the baby, he couldn't hold back his tears. In order to take custody of Luna, Owen had to go through a DNA test that confirmed his paternity. Then Mrs. Olsen came into their home and became the nanny housekeeper, an advisor on children's issues. 5 years had passed by the blink of an eye, and Luna had grown up before their very eyes. From a curious and playful toddler, she had transformed into a bright and intelligent child. Her laughter filled their homeless, and her quick wit never failed to surprise and delight those around her. Owen was proud of the person she was becoming and watched in amazement as she explored the world around her and discovered new interests and talents. Luna's energy was contagious, and her infectious smile had a way of lighting up even the darkest of days. She had grown so much in just 5 short years in her family. Was looking forward to all the wonderful things she would achieve in the years to. Today was an important day for Owen as it was Luna's first day of school. "Well, Luna, it's time. Mrs. Olsen, are you coming with us?" But the woman sighed. "I would love to, but I have a pie in the oven and the meat is marinated. If you haven't forgotten, we have guests today in honor of the first day of school." "Oh yeah. I completely forgot. Okay, I'll see you." "Yes, of course. Good luck, sweetheart." Owen went outside with his daughter, but she suddenly stopped and looked at her father with a look of horror on her face. "Dad, where's my backpack?" Owen opened the car door with a smile, and on the seat lay a beautiful backpack that Owen had prepared and placed her in advance. Luna hugged her daddy. "You're the best dad," she said. Owen smiled and replied, "No doubt." There were a lot of people at the school. Owen had thought about which school to send Luna for a long time, but she decided for herself, "Daddy, I don't want to go to a private school. I want to go to the public school. I have a lot of friends that are going to the public school." Owen thought that it would always be possible to transfer to a private school if necessary at the entrance to the school. Luna suddenly stopped and stared at. She then tugged sharply at her father's sleeve, causing Owen to become worried, thinking that she had stumbled or something else had happened. Luna was looking towards a girl. Owen looked where she was pointing and froze not far from them. Stu, the first grader. She was the spitting image of Luna. The girls were so similar that one would think they were twins. Their similar outfits and backpacks also intensified this. O blinked several times, but he was seeing the same thing. What in the world? He firmly took Luna's hand and began to make his way towards the girl. She was standing sideways, and the woman standing next to her was apparently her mother. Something vaguely familiar was about her, but Owen couldn't think of anything right now because she wasn't able to see her face as she was looking the other way. "Excuse me, Owen." When the woman turned around sharply, Owen could hardly restrain a scream in front of him. Stu, the woman who looked like Emma, but it was not Emma. She couldn't understand what was happening. He had mixed feelings of anger and surprise. At that moment, the teacher came up and happily started talking to the children. Owen stood next to a woman who looked like Emma and remained. They didn't say a word. Owen's thoughts were in a jumbled mess in his head. He understood absolutely nothing. Just a few days ago, he and Luna were at Emma's grave, and now Emma was standing in front of him. As soon as the other parents with their children left for the classroom, Owen took everyone to the school part. "I think we need to get to know each other." "Owen," said the woman, looked at her. "My name is Charlotte. I am Emma's twin sister, and this is my little Evelyn." In Owen's head, so many thoughts were running through that. Any psychiatrist would gladly study him. "Charlotte, I don't know how to explain all this, but even considering that you're sisters with Emma, our children have different fathers, where does this similarity come from?" Charlotte sighed and looked into his eyes. "Their fathers are also the same. You are the dad." Charlotte's words hit Owen like a ton of bricks as he sat down feeling as if he had been punched in the stomach. He struggled to process what she had just said. She couldn't catch his breath and his vision was clouded as the realization of what she had just told him started to sink in. The thought of being a father to another girl was both exhilarating and terrifying, but he couldn't wrap his head around the question. He was filled with a mix of emotions and couldn't help but think about how his life would change forever. As he sat there trying to regain his composure, Owen realized that his life was about to take a drastic turn and he wasn't sure if he was ready, but that just can be true. "I've never known you and never met you. I didn't even know that Emma had a family and relatives. She always said she was lonely. Emma has always been like, she never listened to anyone and did everything as she wanted. When our mother died, she totally went off the rails with her supreme education and honors diploma. Emma decided to work as a dancer. I tried to tell her and persuade her many times, but in the end, we quarreled badly and didn't talk at all that day. I came to her to try to talk again, but Emma was already out. She told me on the phone that I could spend the night at her place because she was going to hang. I was tired and decided to stay. And that night you showed up. I tried to explain to you, but, you were unable to listen. When Emma came in the morning, she found me in tears. I told her everything and she just kicked me out. And months later I realized that I was pregnant. I just didn't know who you were. I recently found out that Emma is no longer with. And that she had a daughter. I realized today when I saw you and Luna, I'm as shocked as you to see Luna. So similar to Evelyn." Owen sat down and tried to digest what he had just heard. It can be true, he thought, but the little Evelyn was the spitting image of Luna. They were like two peas in a pod. It wasn't a dream. They all stood there for a while, not saying. Owen was still in shock, processing everything. Then he said, "I still don't know what we should all do next. I guess I should apologize to you first. I was really drunk and I wasn't controlling myself. I was sure that you were Emma." "Well, you don't have to apologize anymore. If not for that incident, I would not have Lynn. She's everything to me in this." As Owens had in silence taking in the news, he suddenly felt a warm and comforting feeling in the pit of his stomach. It slowly dawned on him that with this news, they could all be a family. Now the idea was both thrilling and terrifying, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement about the possibilities that lay ahead. She could picture the four of them building a life together and creating new. The thought of being a father to Evelyn and Luna and building a family with Charlotte filled them with the sense of purpose and joy that he had never experienced before. Despite the fear and uncertainty he felt, Owen knew that he was ready to take on this new role and be the best father he could be. He looked at Charlotte with a newfound sense of love and admiration. Grateful for the opportunity to start a family together. Owen said to Charlotte, "Now you're not alone. Why don't you come with us to our family dinner tonight?" To celebrate the first day of school, the girls who were holding hands happily agreed to the idea. Charlotte smiled and accepted the invitation. Owen was glad that the unexpected situation had turned out well, and he was excited to get to know his new family better. Owen offered for Charlotte and Evelyn to move into his house as they were currently living in a cramped apartment on the outskirts. He argued that they had plenty of space and that they were not strangers to him. He also offered to take the girls to and from school instead, that Charlotte could continue to work and focus on her personal life. But he also made a mental note to keep his feelings in check and to respect Charlotte's privacy and independence. So he kept his feelings to himself and focused on being a good father to Luna, and he watched as the girls grew closer like sisters, and he saw how Charlotte had become a part of their family. He knew that he could not imagine his life without her and the girls, but he did not know how to tell her this. He was stuck in a difficult situation, not knowing how to move forward with his feelings. One day Owen went to Emma's grave and said to her, "Emma, I don't know what to. I love Charlotte, and I can't imagine living without her, but I'm scared to tell her I'm afraid of losing everything. Maybe she's afraid of the same. Afraid of losing you." Owen was surprised to see Charlotte standing by the fence with tears in her eyes. He realized that she had also come to talk to Emma. Without hesitation, he walked towards her and pulled her into an embrace. They hugged tightly, not letting go of each other for a long time. The pain, the fear, and the uncertainty of the past year melted away as they held each other. Owen finally confessed his love for Charlotte, and she returned the sentiment. From then on, they were a family: Owen, Charlotte, Luna, and Evelyn. They agreed for Emma together, but also celebrated the new life they had built. Having left the past behind them, the family was now prepared to embark on a new chapter together. Owen and Charlotte had a third child, and Mrs. Olsen, who looked after their two daughters Luna and Evelyn, was confident in taking care of all three of them and turned down the offer for further support. They kept pushing forward together as a family. Owen felt joyous and grateful for being a part of the Ward family, and acknowledged how fortunate they all were. From that day on, the entire family experienced true happiness, and he was convinced Emma would have been overjoyed to see them this way. He was thankful for the fresh start and the chance to give and receive love. Even though he had to leave Emma behind, he would always cherish her memory and everything she did for him. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for the family he had, knowing that they would always support one another in times of need.